Good Wednesday morning, everybody. It is May 19th, and it's a bit of a dreary, rainy morning, and I'm going to try to get through this devotion without any oxygen this morning. I think I can do it. So let's dive right in. This is going to be a fairly short one because I don't want to dilly-dally. We're going to dive right in. We're looking at Acts 15, 36 to 41. So we're finishing off the 15th chapter of Acts, which, of course, the major part of that was the Jerusalem Council, and then the letter written to the believers in Antioch and to Galatia as well. I would assume that that's going to be a traveling letter. But at any rate, now Barnabas and Paul are back in Antioch, Syria, and we have just had the two disciples that came with them, Judas, Barnabas, and Silas, have gone back to Jerusalem. Remember that. Now, some manuscripts do throw in there that Silas decided to stay behind, but the oldest and the best manuscripts, Silas has left and gone back to Jerusalem. It's not uncommon to have things like that where somebody, well, wait a minute, we can't have Silas be gone because it's a different Silas. There's certainly many different folks with the same name. How many Johns, how many Pauls do you run into in your days here in this world? What have you name. Don't run into a lot of Roys, though, do you? And they're usually in their 90s. So at any rate, let's look at Acts 15, 36 to 41. After some days, Paul said to Barnabas, "Come, let us return and visit the believers in every city where we proclaim the word of the Lord, and see how they are doing." Barnabas wanted to take with them John called Mark, but Paul decided not to take with them one who had deserted them in Pamphylia and who had not accompanied them in the work. The disagreement became so sharp that they parted company. Barnabas took Mark with him and sailed away to Cyprus, but Paul chose Silas and set out, the believers commending him to the grace of the Lord. He went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Now, the big thing here is that they're taking off and they're going back to strengthen the churches. This is something that is a good model. We don't just throw people out in the wind and then forget about them and not go back and try to make sure that everything's going okay and help iron out problems. This is a model for church planting. Certainly something that the church hopefully has gone along with. Though there have been places where the church just, one person went and the church popped up, but that's neither here nor there. So the interesting thing is that Barnabas and John Mark have taken off to go to Cyprus, and Paul and Silas, they're going by land now. They're traveling from Antioch around to Tarsus, where, of course, Paul is originally from. And then they're going to go through Derbe and Lystra. And the journey is a quite much longer journey. It's not just going back where they've been. It would be really interesting to know where Barnabas and Mark went, but we don't beyond Cyprus, at least that I've ever run into, that I can recall. At any rate, and it would be church lore, not scripture. The thing we want to notice here, though, is the disagreement between them. Now, John Mark is a relative of Barnabas. It's unclear, and Piosios, if I'm pronouncing that, in the Greek means either cousin or nephew. That's why you see it translated both ways. So he's a relative. We don't know exactly whether he's a nephew or whether he's a cousin, but they are related. And so obviously there's blood thicker than water kind of a thing. And so he wants to bring his relative with him. Paul is not very gracious, is he? He's not very forgiving of whatever reason. We don't know the reason why Mark left and didn't come, left during the first missionary trip, but Paul is not very graceful. One of the things we have to remember about Scripture is Scripture witnesses to us. Sometimes it witnesses to us in what we shouldn't be as well. Here, we want to be Barnabas. We don't want to be Paul. Paul's not filled with very much compassion or grace. In fact, he's quite down on poor John Mark. And we have such a strong argument between him and Barnabas that these two guys that have been together in their ministry, Barnabas went and got Paul, remember, and brought him back to help him. They've been together for a long time here, maybe several years. That people, depends on how long you believe the first missionary trip was. Some believe it was a couple of years long. So this is not a short-term relationship. So this is unfortunate that we have Paul's response is the way that it is. But like I said, many times in Scripture, even with Paul, we see not only ways that we should model, but ways we shouldn't model. I think what here, Paul is unfortunately playing the foil. Paul is showing us what not to do. We need to be grace-filled. We need to be forgiving. We need to be understanding, because we don't know the situation of what was going on with John Mark. And perhaps Paul doesn't even know for sure. It's hard to know. So with that, we have them taking off on the second missionary journey. Again, it would be nice to know more about where John Mark and Barnabas head off to after Cyprus. I don't think we have any evidence of that. Excuse me. But we'll take it from this, as I said, the model to remember that we need to be a Barnabas here. In this bit of Scripture, be Barnabas. Don't be Paul. Paul's not doing the right thing here, I'm sorry to say. Barnabas is. Barnabas is the model we want to follow. So with that, I'm going to let you go, because after all, I really should be back on my oxygen tank, oxygen consolidator, actually. And I do want to thank Clint for helping me set my little one that Gail and I own up yesterday. So at any rate, I'll let you go. Have a very blessed day. I believe tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment at 9, so I think I'm coming on. I have to go double check that. So I may be coming on early to do the devotion, if I do. So this may pop up tomorrow at 8. All right. Have a very blessed day, and be a blessing to someone today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.